Everyone believed this story until the truth surfaced. The secret didn't arrive with drama. It slipped in like dust through a cracked window, settling quietly, coating everything before anyone noticed it was there. Tony stopped talking to Nana about money. Not completely, just enough. He still mentioned bills, still talked about groceries and daycare, but the bigger things, the transfers, the commitments, the promises, those stayed between him and Uncle Deji. Tony told himself he was protecting the household from unnecessary stress. He told himself leadership meant carrying weight alone. What he didn't tell himself was the truth. He didn't trust Nana to agree. Nana felt the shift immediately. She noticed it in the way Tony angled his phone away when messages came in the way he answered questions with summaries instead of details, in the way he said, "I've handled it," more often than "let's decide." Trust doesn't break loudly, it erodes. One afternoon, Nana logged into their shared account to pay daycare fees and froze. The balance was lower than expected, not by a little, by a lot. She refreshed the page, checked again. Her chest tightened. She waited until Tony came home. "Did something change with our account?" she asked carefully. Tony hesitated. Just a second. Long enough. "I moved some money," he said. "It's fine." "How much?" Nana asked. "Enough," Tony replied. "I told you, I've handled it." The old anger fled again, but this time, fear sat underneath it. "Tony," Nana said, keeping her voice calm, "we agreed to discuss major expenses." Tony's jaw tightened, "and we also agreed not to run our marriage like a committee." There it was again. That word, committee. Nana stared at him, realizing something painful. Tony didn't see her as a partner. He saw her as an obstacle to overcome. She didn't argue. She didn't push. Instead, she went quiet. That silence scared Tony more than any fight. Days later, Nana received a call from home. A relative mentioned Tony's plans casually, assuming Nana already knew. "He's sending money for land clearing," the voice said cheerfully. "They said building will start next year." Nana's heart dropped. Land clearing. Building. Next year. She ended the call and sat there stunned. Not because Tony wanted to build, but because he had decided alone. That night, Nana waited. When Tony finally sat down, she spoke. "You are building in Nigeria," she said. Tony looked surprised, then annoyed. "Who told you?" "So it's true," Nana said softly. Tony sighed. "It's an investment. Uncle Deji connected me to people. It's smart." "You told me it wasn't wise," Nana said. "You said we were too young." Tony avoided her eyes. "Plans change." "No," Nana replied. "You changed." The argument that followed was different from the others. Slower, heavier, more dangerous. "You went behind my back," Nana said. "I took responsibility," Tony countered. "You shut me out. You would have argued. So you punished me for disagreeing?" Tony stood up. "I am the head of this family." The head! The word head echoed in the room. Nana stood too. "And I am your wife, not your employee." The room went quiet. Zara stirred in her room, sensing the tension. Tony's voice dropped. "You don't respect me." Nana's eyes filled. "I don't feel safe sharing my thoughts with you anymore." That confession hung between them, fragile and raw. For the first time, Tony didn't know what to say. That night, Nana slept in the guest room. Not to make a point, to breathe. In that quiet, Nana replayed everything, every ignored suggestion, every decision announced instead of discussed, every time she was told to be patient, submissive, understanding, while Tony acted independently. She called Mrs. Coleman. "I think he's already left me," Nana said quietly. Not physically, but emotionally. Mrs. Coleman listened, then asked a question Nana hadn't considered. "Have you told him what you are afraid to lose?" Nana swallowed. I don't think he wants to hear it. Fear doesn't disappear when it's ignored, Mrs. Coleman said. It finds other ways out. Across town, Tony sat in his car long after work, staring at nothing. Uncle Deji had congratulated him on the land decision. You did well, Uncle Deji said. A man must act. Tony should have felt proud. Instead, he felt hollow. At church the following Sunday, a sermon brushed uncomfortably close to home. Can two walk together except they agree? The pastor asked almost casually. Tony stiffened. Nana lowered her head. The verse lingered long after service ended. They drove home in silence. The turning point came with a letter. Nana received official confirmation of her program start date along with orientation details. She placed it on the counter, unsure whether to hide it or present it. She chose honesty. Tony saw the letter and picked it up. "You're really doing this?" he said. "Yes," Nana replied. "I am." Tony nodded slowly. "Then I need to tell you something." Nana's heart raced. "What?" Tony hesitated. The secret pressed against his chest. Heavy now, demanding air. "I signed a contract in Nigeria," he said. "When?" Nana whispered. 2 weeks ago. Nana laughed once, short, broken. "So while we were arguing about transparency, you were committing our future?" Tony's voice rose. "I did it for us. You did it without me." The argument escalated fast. Years of unspoken resentment poured out. "You never listen. You always resist. You make decisions like I don't exist. You challenge me like I'm your enemy." Zara began to cry. The sound cut through them. Nana scooped her up, tears streaming now. "Look at what we're teaching her," Nana said. "That love means conflict, that voices don't matter equally." Tony watched her daughter cling to Nana, and something cracked. Later that night, Tony sat alone in the living room, the house eerily quiet. Nana stayed with Zara in the guest room. Tony stared at his phone. Uncle Deji's number glowed on the screen. He didn't call. For the first time, he questioned the advice he had followed so faithfully. What if strength wasn't about control? What if leadership required humility? That thought frightened him. Nana, lying awake, realized something equally painful. She had stopped fighting for the marriage and started protecting herself from it. That realization scared her more than any argument. They were no longer just disagreeing. They were choosing sides, and something was about to force a decision neither of them was ready to make. They thought they knew where the real problem was. They were wrong. The breaking point didn't come during an argument. It came during a pause, one of those heavy silences where words feel too small to carry what's underneath them. It happened on a Tuesday. Tony came home early, something Nana noticed immediately. He didn't loosen his tie. He didn't go to the fridge. He sat on the couch, hands clasped, staring at the blank television screen. Nana stood near the doorway. Zara balanced on her hip. She felt it before he spoke. The shift, the weight, the sense that something had finally reached the surface. "We need to talk," Tony said. Nana's heart thumped once, hard. "About what?" "About us." She sat slowly, keeping Zara close. "Go on." Tony exhaled. "I spoke to Uncle Deji today." Nana didn't respond. She waited. He asked why things still feel tense, why my house doesn't feel like peace. Nana almost laughed. Almost. And for the first time, Tony said, voice quieter now, "I didn't have an answer that made sense." Nana's grip tightened slightly. Tony rubbed his palms together. He said something that bothered me. "What?" Nana asked. He said maybe you are resisting because you are not submissive enough. There it was, the familiar script. Nana nodded slowly. "And you agree?" Tony hesitated. I
I agreed before. Before. That word cracked something open. Tony continued, but today, for some reason, it didn't sit right. I asked him, what if leadership doesn't mean deciding alone? Nana's breath caught. Tony looked up at her, eyes searching. He didn't like that question. Silence stretched between them. What did he say? Nana asked. He said I was becoming weak. Nana felt a mix of sadness and clarity rush through her. And what did that make you feel? Nana asked. Tony swallowed, confused. That was new. Nana stood and placed Zara gently on the floor with her toys. She turned back to Tony, heart pounding. Can I be honest with you? Tony nodded. I don't feel married to you anymore, Nana said, voice steady but emotional. I feel managed. That word hit him harder than she expected. Tony leaned back, stunned. Managed? Yes, Nana said, voice steady but emotional. Decisions are announced to me. Plans are revealed after they're final. My thoughts are treated like resistance. My growth feels like rebellion. Tony opened his mouth to respond, then closed it. Nana continued, I didn't marry a mentor. I married a man. And somewhere along the line, we replaced each other with outside voices. Tony's eyes burned. I thought I was protecting order, he said quietly. I thought too much discussion would create chaos. And I thought silence would keep peace, Nana replied. We were both wrong. The truth sat between them, undeniable. Tony stood and walked towards the window. I feel like I'm losing authority, he admitted. Like if I bend, I disappear. Nana stepped closer. I feel like if I bend, I vanish. They stood there, finally seeing the symmetry in their pain. That night, Tony didn't call Uncle Deji. Instead, he opened his Bible, something he hadn't done alone in months. It fell open to a page he didn't expect. Wisdom is profitable to direct. The verse stared back at him. Not power, not control, wisdom. Tony sat there for a long time. The next day, Nana received a message from Mrs. Coleman asking how she was holding up. Nana stared at the screen, fingers hovering. For the first time, she didn't want advice. She wanted alignment. That evening, Tony did something unexpected. He asked Nana to sit with him at the dining table. No phones, no distractions. I want to hear you. Not to respond, just to hear. Nana studied him carefully, unsure whether to trust the moment. She spoke anyway. She talked about fear, of being boxed in, of losing herself, of raising a daughter who thought her voice mattered less. She talked about ambition, not as competition, but as contribution. She talked about loneliness inside a marriage that looked perfect to everyone else. Tony listened. When she finished, he didn't defend himself. He said, I didn't realize how alone you felt. Tears slid down Nana's face. I didn't realize how scared you were. They sat there, exposed. Then Tony said something that shifted the ground beneath them. I don't want mentors deciding our marriage anymore. Nana froze. What do you mean? I mean, guidance is helpful, Tony said, but agreement has to start here, between us, privately. Nana searched his face for certainty. Are you sure? Tony nodded. because I'm tired of being right and still unhappy. The relief was immediate, but so was the fear. Change is harder than conflict. That weekend, Tony called Uncle Deji. "I need space," Tony said calmly. "I need to figure out my home without interference." The reaction was sharp: disapproval, warnings, accusations of weakness. Tony ended the call, shaking but lighter. Nana sent a message to Mrs. Coleman too. "I appreciate everything, but I need to learn how to hear my husband again." Mrs. Coleman replied, simply, "That's wisdom." The real test came with the land issue. Tony laid out the document on the table. "I already signed," he admitted, "but I want us to decide together what comes next, even if it means changing the plan." Nana stared at the papers, then at him. "Are you willing to reconsider?" "Yes." That word felt fragile, powerful. They didn't resolve everything that night. They argued, they disagreed, but something was different. They stayed in the conversation. No mentors, no outside validation. Just two people learning how to walk together again. Later that night, as they lay in bed, Nana spoke softly. "Can two walk together except they agree?" Tony squeezed her hand. "Not anymore," he said. "I finally understand that." But understanding is only the beginning. Because agreement doesn't come easily when pride has been practiced for so long. And rebuilding trust would require more than words. It would require consistency and sacrifice.
Sometimes loss is the beginning. The hardest part wasn't learning how to talk again. It was learning how to listen without preparing a defense. Tony discovered this the first time Nana disagreed with him after their reset. Not sharply, not emotionally, just honestly. "I don't think that plan works for us," she said one evening, calmly. Tony felt the old reflex rise, the urge to explain, correct, override. His mouth opened automatically. Then he stopped. He noticed his heart racing, his shoulders tight, his pride demanding space. And he remembered how empty being right had felt. So he asked a different question. "Help me understand why." Nana paused, surprised. Then she spoke, slowly, carefully, but freely. She explained her reasoning, her fears, her alternatives. Tony didn't agree immediately, but he stayed. That was new. Rebuilding trust felt awkward at first, like learning to walk on a healed leg that still remembered pain. Every conversation carried history. Every decision carried risk. They created new rules together, simple ones. No major decision without private discussion. No mentor advice before spousal agreement. No, "I've already decided." No weaponizing faith or culture. They didn't announce these rules. They practiced them. The land issue became their first real test. Tony admitted something he had never said out loud. He said, "Part of why I rushed the project is because I felt like if I didn't assert myself, I'd lose my place." Nana listened. Then she said something equally vulnerable. "Part of why I pushed my program secretly is because I was afraid you'd shut it down before I could even try." They stared at each other. Same fear, different expressions. They decided not to build immediately. Instead, they secured the land legally, paused construction, and redirected funds into stability, education, savings, and their present life in America.
Tony called the contractor himself to renegotiate. It wasn't easy. He felt embarrassed, but Nana stood beside him, not behind him. That mattered. When Nana's program began, Tony adjusted his schedule to help more at home. He didn't complain. He didn't make it a sacrifice story. He treated it like teamwork. Zara noticed the difference first. She laughed more, slept better, reached for both parents equally. Peace has a sound. Children hear it. The question of more children came later, handled differently this time. They didn't argue, they talked. Tony shared his fear of lineage and legacy. Nana shared her need for stability and emotional readiness. They didn't decide immediately. They agreed to revisit it later, together. And that agreement felt like progress. One Sunday evening, months later, they sat on the porch watching the sun dip low. Tony broke the silence. He said, "I used to think wisdom meant knowing what to do. Now I think it means knowing who to decide with." Nana smiled softly. "Wisdom is profitable to direct," she replied. Tony nodded. Not dominate, not silence, direct. They still had mentors, but now mentors were consulted after unity, not before. Advice became input, not instruction. Their marriage didn't become perfect. They still disagreed. They still misunderstood each other sometimes. They still needed patience. But they no longer competed for control. They partnered for growth. And something unexpected happened. Love softened. Not the loud, dramatic kind, but the steady, safe kind. The kind that breathes, the kind that listens, the kind that doesn't panic when challenged. One night, as Nana prepared for bed, Tony said something quietly from across the room. "Thank you for not disappearing." Nana paused, emotion rising. "Thank you for making space." They didn't need a grand ending, just alignment. Because they finally understood something simple and costly. Can two walk together except they agree? Not for long. But when they choose agreement before advice, walking together becomes possible again. Some marriages don't break because of betrayal. They break because too many voices replace the one that matters most. Can two walk together except they agree? Amos chapter 3, verse 3. And wisdom is profitable to direct. Ecclesiastes chapter 10, verse 10. Love doesn't survive on control or silence. It survives on shared direction. Wisdom isn't loud. It doesn't rush. It listens, aligns, and chooses unity before ego. When couples learn to face each other before facing the world, growth becomes possible again. Agreement doesn't mean sameness. It means respect. And sometimes the strongest thing two people can do is stop asking everyone else and finally ask each other. I am glad you, my dear viewer, made it to this point. Please don't forget to subscribe, like, share, and drop a comment for more real stories like this.